At Shangjiang City First Middle School, the most important day for every student has finally arrived. White birds fly over the campus as the crowd gathers for the talent assessment. A large stage stands in the center of the arena, flanked by students waiting for their names to be called. And Bai is next in line to face his future. And Bai steps up to the glowing stone pillar. The elder instructor tells him to place his hand on the surface to reveal his innate talent. The stone pulses with a faint teal light. It displays a meager score of 3.1 for the mage class, just barely reaching the minimum requirement. And Bai pulls his hand back, staring at the lackluster result. He looks stunned by the low number glowing on the display. Laughter erupts from the stands as the other students mock his performance. They can't believe the class president barely qualified for a transfer while his girlfriend scored over a 9. Liu Ruyan approaches him with a confident smile. She mentions her own 9.6 talent score and offers to protect him from now on. The young man keeps his expression neutral, declining her offer. He tells her she doesn't need to worry about him. And Bai reflects on his situation. He transmigrated to this world 18 years ago, a place where a low talent score usually means a lifetime of mediocrity. The world is a dangerous place, constantly invaded by monsters and demons from other planes. Huge, glowing beasts roam the ruins of human civilization. Most of humanity was wiped out during the initial invasion. Now, survivors are forced to live in fortified city-states, their territory drastically reduced. To survive, every citizen is granted the potential to become a professional. Glowing seals appear on the backs of people as they awaken their abilities to fight back. Professionals are split into 6 main paths: warrior, mage, priest, archer, beast tamer, and support. Each role is vital for the continued survival of the species. A score of 3 is the bare minimum for a class transfer. A first transfer mage at this level has extremely limited growth and is considered the bottom tier. A score of 6 marks a true talent, allowing for multiple class transfers. These individuals become the backbone of the military and society. Those scoring above 9 are considered absolute geniuses. They have the potential to reach the mythic tier, wielding power that can reshape the battlefield. On the shooting range, small bursts of magic fizzle out on the grass. The apprentice mages practice their basic skills with varying degrees of success. And Bai watches the training, feeling the weight of his 3.1 score. With such a low aptitude, he'll never become a grand mage or even a top-tier combatant. He stands alone as the other students whisper behind his back. The realization that he might just be a mob grinder for the rest of his life sinks in. Liu Ruyan suggests he should just choose a support class. She wants him to handle her logistics so he can stay by her side safely. And Bai gives her a small, tight smile. He tells her he has his own plans and is definitely going to transfer into a mage. The girl stares at him in disbelief. She can't understand why he'd throw his future away on a combat class he's barely qualified for. Behind them, the other students continue to laugh at his stubbornness. They find the idea of a 3.1 talent mage ridiculous. The young man ignores the mockery and looks down at his basic wooden staff. He wonders if he should have invested in better equipment before the final transfer. Liu Ruyan's expression turns cold. She warns him that if he doesn't take this chance to stay with her, she won't be helping him later. Inside the class transfer hall, and Bai faces Teacher Wang. The instructor asks him one last time if he's sure about his decision. Teacher Wang reminds him that as an orphan, he has no backing to fund the expensive resources a mage needs. He warns that no guild will want a low-score mage. And Bai looks down, sweat trickling down his face. He knows his talent is considered trash, but he's banking on a secret advantage. He stands tall, looking past the teacher at the grand library. He tells himself he still has one final hope to change his destiny. A transparent screen appears in front of him, locked behind heavy iron chains. The system activation requires him to complete the class transfer first. With a determined look, and Bai repeats his choice to Teacher Wang. He's going to become a mage, regardless of the risks. The teacher sighs and waves his hand toward the array. He tells the boy to step inside and accept the energy of the ritual. Teacher Wang watches him walk into the light, thinking to himself that another youth is about to be led astray by pride. and Bai stands in the center as the stones begin to float. Energy swirls around the young man, lifting him off the floor. Blue magical symbols glow in the air as the transfer process begins in earnest. The instructor's mouth hangs open in surprise. He wasn't expecting the ritual to be this intense for someone with such low aptitude. A notification pops up confirming the successful transfer, and Bai has officially become a magic apprentice. A second notification appears as he gains his first skill, basic fireball. The blue energy around him starts to settle. Teacher Wang looks disappointed as the glow fades. He tells the boy that he's just a basic magic apprentice and doesn't even count as a real mage yet. And Bai doesn't care about the teacher's opinion. A wide grin spreads across his face as he feels a new power awakening within him. The heavy chains on his hidden screen shatter into pieces. A blinding golden light erupts as the system finally unlocks. The text on the screen changes, announcing that the activation conditions have been met. The system begins its startup sequence. A final congratulatory message appears, and Bai has successfully bound the skill affix system, changing the rules of his life forever. A system window explains the new rules. Every time Bai levels up, he gets to draw a golden affix to add extra effects to his skills. And Bai doesn't hesitate for a second. He reaches out and taps the golden card floating in the air, confirming the draw. Luck is definitely on his side. He pulls a golden legendary skill affix called Explosion. Golden shards swirl around the young mage as the power sinks into his chest. While others use affixes for gear, his system lets him buff his actual spells. The world's ranking system for items goes from common white all the way up to legendary gold. He just skipped straight to the top of the hierarchy. And Bai can barely contain his excitement. Getting a golden legendary affix on his very first try is a massive win for his future career. The explosion affix details appear on a scroll. It adds a massive area of effect blast that can multiply his damage by up to 100 times. Since Fireball is his only attack spell right now, and Bai decides to fuse the affix into it. He raises 2 fingers as the golden particles gather in his palm. He clenches his fist with a confident grin. He can't wait to see what a 100-fold damage increase actually looks like once he hits the field. The mage heads straight for the school's back mountain trial grounds. It's a rugged landscape of deep ravines and dense forests perfect for training. A group of students stands before a glowing blue portal. This is where novice professionals go to test their mettle against low-level monsters. And Bai arrives at the trail, his boots crunching on the dirt path. He's already managed to gear up with a set of basic novice equipment for the occasion. The other students are surprised to see him. They whisper about him actually going through with the mage transfer and figure he's just there to beg for help. And Bai ignores the mockery and runs toward the forest. He knows the monsters here shouldn't exceed level 5, making it the perfect testing range. Suddenly, a heavy staff tipped with a glowing blue crystal slams into the ground right in his path. And Bai trips and falls, looking up to see Liu Ruyan standing over him. She looks surprised to find him at the trial grounds so soon after the ceremony. Liu Ruyan offers to carry him through the zone and split the experience since she's already a Tier 3 ice mage. He just brushes it off, saying he's fine on his own. The girl is annoyed, asking why he came running toward her then. And Bai points out that she was just standing right in front of the only entrance. Liu Ruyan grinds her teeth as he walks past her. She's fuming that he made her lose face in front of everyone after she tried to look generous. Teacher Wang watches from the side, telling Bai to stay focused. He reminds the boy that even though the monsters are low level, he still needs to be careful. The teacher sighs as the boy disappears into the trees. He purposely didn't tell him about this place to keep him safe, yet the kid found it anyway. Deep in the misty forest, a blue beam of light marks the entry point. The trial has officially started for the young mage. And Bai stands in the middle of a glowing magic circle, scanning his surroundings. He's alone now, exactly how he wanted it. He spots his first target, a level 1 mutated rabbit sniffing around a large tree. The system highlights its stats, showing it has 80 health points. He crouches low behind some bushes, wand ready. He decides to play it safe and start things off with a sneak attack from the shadows. He focuses his energy, and a small spark of fire ignites at the tip of his wand. He calls forth a basic fireball and lets the spell rip. The fireball shoots out, but it looks agonizingly slow to the trained eye. It drifts toward the rabbit like a lazy balloon. The rabbit doesn't even move, just staring at the glowing orb as it floats closer. It clearly doesn't think the small flame is any real danger. It opens its mouth, revealing a set of sharp, mutated teeth. It seems more annoyed by the light than scared of the impact. But as it rolled over the bridge a few more times and came to a stop, everything changed. The small orb erupted with a blinding flash of golden energy. A massive explosion tears through the forest, completely obliterating the target. The shockwave sends dirt and debris flying in every direction. And Bai watches the smoke clear with a serious expression. A 10-meter explosion radius from a basic fireball is even better than he expected. Now that he knows the skill works, he adjusts his hood and prepares for more. It's time to start speed farming some real levels. He sprints through the dark woods, leaving the crater behind him. He needs to find larger groups of monsters to maximize his time and effort. He doesn't have to wait long before a massive mutated boar charges out of the undergrowth. Its tusks are sharp, and it's coming straight for the mage. And Bai lures the beast into a more open area. He knows these low-intelligence creatures are easy to bait if he just gives them a target to chase. He swings his wand in a wide arc, calling forth another fireball. The air around him ripples with the intense heat of the legendary spell. He doesn't just fire one, he rains them down on the stamping boars. Multiple explosions begin to light up the dark forest floor. The massive beasts are completely engulfed in pillars of roaring fire. They don't even have a chance to squeal before they're incinerated. The experience notifications start rolling in fast. He just wiped out 16 creatures in a single go, jumping his experience bar by nearly 30%. From a distance, the forest looks like it's being bombarded by artillery. A golden pillar of light signals his successful level up to level 2. His stats jump up immediately, giving Nbai a boost to all attributes and his spirit. He can feel the mana coursing through his veins as he gets stronger. Nbai's status window updates as he continues his grind. At level 2, his spirit has already climbed to 11, and he still has a skill draw waiting to be used. "I can draw another affix," he exclaims, the excitement clear in his posture. He commands the system to draw immediately, eager for another power spike. A golden scroll unfurls before him, announcing his success. He's obtained another golden legendary affix, Explosion, which can multiply his damage by up to 100 times. The young mage's excitement fades into confusion as he reads the scroll. He wonders why the system would give him the exact same legendary affix a second time. Before he can complain, a new notification appears in the air. The system has detected the duplicate and is granting him a bonus draw opportunity for free. And Bai's eyes widen with realization as he leans in closer to the floating text. He didn't expect the system to have such a beneficial fail-safe for duplicate pulls. The second draw is even more impressive than the first. He pulls a golden legendary affix called Tenfold, represented by a stylized Roman numeral X. Golden energy swirls around Nbai, illuminating the dark forest as he prepares to integrate the new power. He holds his hands out, mana gathering between his fingers. He pauses, considering the mechanics of his unique system. A prompt informs him that affixes of the same type can actually be stacked together for a massive enhancement. Without a second thought, he points his wand toward the sky. He commands the system to fuse the new tenfold affix directly into his basic fireball skill. Deep in the shadows of the woods, several pairs of glowing blue eyes watch from the undergrowth. The forest is thick with monsters, unaware of the threat emerging. A pillar of golden fire erupts as the skill is updated. Basic Fireball now has a 300-fold damage potential thanks to the stacked explosion modifiers. As night falls over the back mountain, a small campfire crackles in a rocky clearing. A mutated creature is being roasted on a spit over the flames. Nbai sits by the fire, taking a large bite out of a cooked leg. He notes that the meat of mutated beasts provides a steady trickle of experience and small stat boosts. Looking over the desolate landscape, The mountain is now covered in deep, smoldering craters. He systematically cleared out almost every monster in the entire zone. He sighs, looking a bit worse for wear with a bead of sweat on his face. Despite the carnage, he's only reached level 4, and he realizes he made a tactical error during a chaotic moment. He recalls a terrifying encounter with a massive, red-eyed, mutated bear. In the heat of the ambush, he had frantically ordered the system to apply the tenfold affix to save himself. To his surprise, the affix was applied to his basic class passive instead of his fireball. His physique, dexterity, and spirit stats have all skyrocketed by 10 times. And Bai dusts his hands off, looking down at the ground with a satisfied smirk. The accidental combination of no cooldown and instacast on his fireball is an absolute game-changer. He strides confidently through a shallow, glowing stream of water. If he wants to reach level 5 before the grand exam, he knows he needs to find a much tougher hunting ground. Near the trial entrance, Dean of Students Jai Feng checks his pocket watch with a frown. He remarks to Teacher Wang that the wild monsters are being cleared at an unprecedented rate. Jai Feng speculates that the top-tier students must be teaming up to dominate the mountain. His thoughts are interrupted by a desperate cry for help echoing from the forest. A student comes sprinting out of the glowing blue portal, his face pale with terror. He's running as if his life depends on it, barely staying on his feet. Teacher Wang and Jai Feng turn toward the disturbance, their expressions turning grave. Something has gone seriously wrong inside the novice training grounds. Teacher Wang catches the panicked boy by the shoulders to steady him. Jai Feng demands to know what could have caused such a complete breakdown of composure. Gasping for air, the student explains that he was just minding his own business on the outskirts. Suddenly, a massive horde of mutated beasts came stamping toward the outer edges. Jai Feng doesn't waste time, ordering Teacher Wang to help him expand the portal. They need to prepare for a mass extraction of all the students still trapped inside. Back inside the mountain, and Bai stands amidst a trail of smoke and ruin. He looks around the silent, empty landscape, wondering why there isn't a single person left in sight. Further down the path, several students are fleeing for their lives toward the portal. They're baffled and terrified by the sudden, violent change in the monster's behavior. A chaotic mix of mutated moose and wolves thunder through the trees behind them. Their eyes glow red with a primal, collective frenzy as they charge. And Bai watches the stampede from the safety of a high rocky outcrop. He stands tall, his green cloak billowing in the wind as he surveys the chaos below. He realizes that the monsters didn't just disappear, they were all driven toward the outskirts by his own destructive path. This massive horde is the perfect opportunity to hit level 5. Outside the portal, the evacuated students huddle together in a daze. The teachers stand ready at the magic circle, waiting for any remaining stragglers to emerge. The light of the portal flares as Bai finally steps through. He looks calm and composed, showing none of the panic that the other students exhibited. Teacher Wang rushes over, immensely relieved to see his student safe. He asks how Bai managed to survive the beast horde that terrified everyone else. Bai plays it cool, claiming that the horde had already moved on by the time he reached the exit. Teacher Wang urges him to rest, reminding him the grand exam is only 10 days away. As he walks away, Bai pulls his hood low over his eyes. He's relieved that the teacher was too distracted to use an appraisal skill on him and see his true stats. He looks back over his shoulder with a knowing look. He's successfully hit level 5, unlocking a second skill slot and gaining a significant boost to all his base attributes. A golden notification appears as he walks, celebrating another successful draw. He's just obtained the golden legendary skill affix, Corpse Explosion. His heavy boots thud against the dry earth as he heads back toward the city. The landscape behind him is quiet once again, the trial over for now. Elsewhere on the mountain, Liu Ruyan bites her lip in frustration, her face clouded with anger. Her team's training session has been completely ruined by the lack of targets. She and her teammates stand in the middle of a massive, scorched crater. She screams into the empty air, demanding to know where all the monsters could have possibly gone. Night has fallen over the city as Bai approaches the grand, illuminated facade of the Adventurers Association. The building stands as a beacon for those seeking power and wealth in this new era. The surrounding district is filled with high-end shops, their neon signs advertising everything from legendary armory to exotic battle pets for the city's awakened elite. Inside the bustling hall, Nbai walks with a relaxed air. Having reached level 5, he's eager to find a second skill to fill his newly unlocked slot and maximize his potential. He stops before a massive digital display promoting a Blizzard skill book for 10,000 yuan. The staggering price confirms his belief that being a high-level mage is a luxury few can afford to maintain. Nbai makes his way to the circular reception desk and rests a hand on the counter. He informs the receptionist that he's here to activate a dungeon card for his first official run. Nearby, a cloaked figure watches silently while taking a long pull from a glass of ale. The blonde receptionist looks up, surprised to see a freshman seeking a dungeon card so early in the day. She smiles professionally while sliding a registration form across the polished wood. She asks him to provide his high school and class details to finalize the activation request. Across the room, a rough-looking man with a patterned bandana slams a heavy dagger onto a table littered with gold coins. He's already tracking the newcomers, nodding Nbai's status as a mage from First High. Sudden shouts of triumph and frustration erupt from a group of seasoned adventurers in the lounge. Nbai glances back, a bead of sweat on his face as he asks the receptionist about the commotion. Zhao Rushan leans back, a cigarette dangling from his lips as he exhales a thick cloud of smoke. He laughs heartily, impressed that a little brother has managed to hit level 5 so quickly after awakening. A hand reaches out, placing 3 crystalline vials filled with glowing red liquid onto the counter. The association member offers them as a complimentary gift for a promising graduate of his alma mater. Nbai looks down at the recovery potions and the paperwork in his hand. He raises an eyebrow, beginning to suspect that his arrival has sparked some kind of gambling spree among the veterans. Zhao Rushan confirms his suspicions with a grin, explaining that they were betting on which school would produce the first card opener. He's just hit the jackpot by placing his money on a First High mage. Nbai accepts the gift with a polite smile, but his casual use of old man clearly hits a nerve. Zhao Rushan snaps back, insisting he only graduated 2 years ago and isn't that old yet. Relaxing slightly, the muscular man introduces himself as Zhao Rushan. He gives a thumb up, offering his services as a power leveler if Nbai ever needs a boost in the future. Nbai leans in, a calculating glint in his eyes as he asks if there are any other betting pools currently open. He's looking for a way to capitalize on the situation and fund his training. Zhao Rushan lists several typical bets, such as dungeon choice and clear times. He warns that the old foxes in the room are getting cautious now that they've seen Nbai's potential firsthand. Nbai holds one of the health potions up to the light, his expression turning sharp and intense. He suggests a bold new bet, 10-to-1 odds that he can clear a Purgatory-level dungeon on his first try. The suggestion causes Zhao Rushan to double over in a fit of coughing as he nearly chokes on his smoke. He warns Nbai that Purgatory difficulty is a death sentence for rookies and not something to joke about. Unfazed by the warning, Nbai's gaze remains steady and focused. He has complete confidence in the overwhelming power of his stacked legendary affixes to see him through any challenge. Zhao Rushan stares back, his eyes narrowing as he realizes the young mage isn't joking. The atmosphere between them turns tense as he weighs the risk of such a massive and dangerous wager. He crushes his cigarette into an ashtray and asks for Nbai's full name to formalize the deal. He notes that if this pool actually opens, the total stakes could easily reach 500,000 yuan. The receptionist silently slides a green dungeon card toward Nbai, her eyes closed in a moment of professional detachment. Nbai knows they're just worried about his ability to cover the loss. Nbai grabs the card and raises it high as he walks toward the stairs, his voice echoing through the hall. He identifies himself as Nbai from the Ren family and tells Zhao Rushan to start the betting. Zhao Rushan scratches his head, trying to place the N family name. Since the kid just pulled out a high-tier dungeon card, Zhao figures he must be from some powerful hidden clan. Nbai steps up to the terminal, swiping his card to initialize the entry. The system confirms he's diving solo into the remnants of the Bug Emperor on Purgatory difficulty. Zhao's jaw drops when he sees the kid actually commit to the run. He realizes he might have just met a top-tier VIP and decides he's going to stick to him like glue from now on. The dungeon gate flares to life, pulling Nbai into a swirling vortex of red energy. The raw power of the teleportation kickstarts a heavy wind that rattles everything in the hall. Inside the dungeon, a red system window pops up to outline his grim objectives. To clear the Purgatory challenge, he has to survive the swarms and completely destroy the bug nest. Dropped into a jagged gray ravine, Nbai scans the area for any signs of the enemy. He doesn't have a map, so he decides to just head in whichever direction sounds the most dangerous. A swarm of gold-winged bugs spots him immediately, their wings vibrating with an aggressive hum. These level 7 mobs have significantly higher stats than anything he fought in the school trials. The bugs dive into the ravine, filling the narrow space with their massive, armored forms. Nbai holds his wand steady as green magical energy begins to swirl around his feet. A massive fireball slams into the lead bugs, erupting in a blinding dome of heat and light. The force of the blast is enough to shake the very foundations of the canyon walls. As the smoke clears, Nbai notices that at least one bug managed to survive the direct hit. It seems some of these elite monsters are built specifically for high defense. He doesn't skip a beat, preparing a follow-up spell with a sharp, determined look. He just needs to dial up the intensity to handle these tougher shells. Suddenly, green magical electricity begins to crackle all over the surviving bug's body. It starts shaking violently, the energy within it becoming unstable and volatile. The monster detonates in a massive burst of green fire, far more powerful than the fireball that initially hit it. The explosion ripples through the air, obliterating everything nearby. Nbai watches the spectacular chain reaction with a cool, calculating gaze. He's starting to realize that his skill affixes are even more broken than he first thought. He pulls up his interface and finally reads the detailed description for the corpse explosion affix he just applied. It turns every dead enemy into a secondary bomb that scales with their health and his own power. The entire ravine is quickly swallowed by thick green smoke and the flickering light of magical fire. He basically turned the first few kills into a self-sustaining wave of destruction. Nbai walks casually through the burning remains of the swarm, his green cloak fluttering behind him. He realizes he doesn't even need to spam fireballs. One good shot is all it takes to trigger a massacre. Another massive explosion rocks the ground behind him as the fire catches the next pile of corpses. The canyon is rapidly becoming a literal tunnel of flame. Billowing clouds of orange and yellow fire fill the frame as the initial blast expands. The sheer heat is turning the stony ground into scorched ash in seconds. In other parts of the ravine, the magical green fire burns even brighter, feeding off the bug's biological energy. It's a relentless chain reaction that leaves 0 survivors. Emerging from the smoke, Nbai looks as calm as if he were taking a morning stroll. He keeps his wand at the ready, though there's nothing left in the immediate area to fight. The floor of the ravine is covered in the charred, broken remains of the bug swarm. He notes that this skill setup is the perfect tool for clearing out high-density dungeons like this one. He stops walking, his head tilting slightly as he catches a new sound echoing through the canyon. It's a rhythmic clicking that's much deeper and heavier than before. Something massive shifts in the dark shadows near a rock overhang, just out of clear sight. Whatever it is, it's clearly far bigger and more dangerous than the scout bugs. Nbai climbs up to a high vantage point and peers down into a massive, shadowy pit. He spots a cluster of bugs, so thick they look like a moving carpet of armored shells and glowing eyes. Thousands of green-winged bugs are packed together along the sheer walls of the ravine. To anyone else, it's a death trap, but for him, it's the ultimate opportunity to test his limits. He raises his wand high above his head, focusing a concentrated bead of magical energy at the tip. He's not going for a wide spray. He's aiming for a single, surgical strike. Sensing the buildup of mana, a group of bugs breaks away from the swarm and charges toward him. They're fast, but they're flying straight into the center of his kill zone. Nbai drops a single, small fireball down into the heart of the pit. It falls slowly, a tiny spark of orange against the overwhelming darkness of the bug nest. He watches with a slight, satisfied smirk as his spell disappears into the mass of enemies. In just a few seconds, this entire canyon is going to be transformed into a giant furnace. Zhao is sweating buckets as he stares at the screen, waiting for the results of the latest raid. The betting pool for the current dungeon has already hit millions, and everyone is on edge. Another gambler mocks Zhao, raising the stakes and betting another 50,000 against him. At the front desk, the clerk's eyes widen as she checks the updated monitor. The leaderboard just flipped, and Bai took the top spot with an SSS rank on Purgatory difficulty. The hall erupts in chaos as the crowd realizes someone actually cleared the hardest dungeon in the game. Zhao is ecstatic, nearly crushing Bai in a bear hug after his winning bet pays off. Bai stands alone on the cliffside, his cloak catching the wind as he takes in the victory. System windows flood his vision, rewarding him with rare chests for his world-first clear. He hits level 7 and gains 2 special opportunities to draw new skill affixes. Bai looks over his loot, wondering if the rewards for a Purgatory clear are actually worth the hype. The purple chest pops open, spitting out rare materials and a handful of stat-boosting pills. Next up is the gold chest, which reveals the remains of a bug king and a mysterious silver badge. He picks up the Purgatory Walker badge, a growth-type item that scales with his power. He clips the badge on and feels the immediate boost to his base attributes. With the gear sorted, he tells the system to roll for his 2 legendary skill modifiers. The draw is a success, granting him flame and teleportation abilities to round out his build. Back at the academy, Director Lee is busy grilling a group of students about their slow progress. The party explains that the monsters were already cleared out by the time they reached the mountain. An assistant named Old Wang sprints into the area, practically screaming that there's bad news. Lee dismisses the students, turning his focus to the panicked man. Wang reports that a new student from another school just cleared a Purgatory dungeon at level 5. The director is skeptical, remembering he was level 9 when he barely cleared it on nightmare difficulty. The assistant insists it's the truth. The kid cleared the entire dungeon in under an hour. Meanwhile, Bai is already grinding a new dungeon, taking out a massive black iron knight. He clears out a room of level 5 archers, determined to maximize his daily dungeon runs. He notes that while the monsters here are tough, their numbers are way lower than the Bug Emperor raid. He moves toward the central gate, following the faint light through the dark corridors. Suddenly, a masked archer drops from the ceiling, unleashing a volley of arrows to ambush Bai. Bai flips out of the way just as a volley of arrows strikes the exact spot where he was standing. A follow-up strike shatters part of his cloak, forcing him onto the defensive. He skids across the stone floor, bracing himself to regain his balance. The archer doesn't let up, driving him back with a relentless flurry of strikes. He downs a potion to recover his stamina, realizing he needs to invest in defensive skills soon. He pushes through the final corridor, arriving at a massive, bat-infested double door. A blast of magical energy sweeps through the room as he enters the boss chamber. In the center of the hall sits a giant stone coffin sealed with heavy iron chain. A massive hammer-like pillar stands behind the tomb, glowing with a spectral blue light. Bai takes a cautious step onto the main platform, his boots clicking on the damp stone. He moves toward the center, bracing for whatever is waiting inside that coffin. A giant spectral mace materializes and slams down, shattering the floor with world-shaking force. The boss doesn't wait for an intro, and Bai prepares to face the king of this graveyard. Bai realizes he's up against a boss unit much sooner than he expected. He grips his staff tight, preparing for the encounter. The black iron giant King LV-7 emerges from the shadows, looking for a fight. The boss doesn't waste time, immediately swinging its massive weapon at him. Bai notes that the tight quarters and the giant's massive range make dodging almost impossible. He decides the only way out is a direct, high-damage strike to end this quickly. A fireball hits the mark, but it only seems to annoy the armored giant. The boss roars in anger, taunting Bai for daring to scratch its armor. Bai quickly realizes his basic magic isn't going to cut through that kind of defense. He shifts tactics, deciding to keep his distance and wear the boss down slowly. Bai barely manages to react as things take a turn for the worse. The giant's hammer slams into the ground, sending shockwaves through the chamber. Dust and debris fly everywhere as the impact craters the floor. Bai watches the heavy weapon strike, looking for a window of opportunity to strike back. He manages to slip away, realizing the boss was using his own fireball's delay against him. He spots a weakness in the giant's movement and prepares to counter. Bai commands the system to apply his new teleport and flame affixes immediately. He launches a volley of fireballs that swarm toward the incoming monsters. He uses the explosions to herd the enemies exactly where he needs them to be. The boss winds up for another world-ending strike, but Nbai is ready. A massive blast engulfs the giant as the trap is sprung. He prepares to chain the attack with a devastating corpse explosion. The concentrated energy hits home, and his fireball proficiency spikes instantly. He realizes that precise control is the secret to mastering his skills at lightning speed. The black iron giant king finally buckles under the pressure of the magic. The helmet hits the stone floor with a clattering sound. It lets out one final, world-shaking roar before collapsing. The giant falls for the glory of its kind, but it wasn't enough to stop Nbai's climb. Nbai stands tall over the rubble, seizing this opportunity to unleash a giant fireball aimed at completely finishing off the giant. A blinding flash of light signals the end of the Purgatory raid. Nbai realizes that the teleportation spell allowed him to completely evade the blast radius from finishing off the boss. The final explosion clears the last of the giant's health bar. Nbai walks away from the wreckage, looking completely unscathed. The system confirms the kill and hands over a rare purple-tier greatshield. He hits level 8, triggering a wave of stat boosts and another affix draw opportunity. He cracks open a purple dungeon chest and finds nutrient potions and heaps of rare stone. The biggest prize of all is an extremely valuable Mount Pet contract scroll. He imagines himself soaring through the skis on a dragon, skipping the hassle of travel. Since his luck is on fire, he decides to draw another affix right then and there. He pulls a gold legendary skill modifier called Tenfold. A duplicate affix detection triggers an additional draw opportunity. This time, he scores the Crimson Lotus legendary affix. Nbai looks at his new powers, knowing his fire magic just reached a whole new world. Nbai decides to apply his newly acquired affixes, boosting his basic class and his fireball skill to insane levels. The Crimson Lotus affix transforms his fire magic, giving it the power to burn through almost any immunity. With his haul for the day complete, Nbai plans to sell his extra loot and pick up some new skill books tomorrow. Carrying all this gear is a nightmare, making a spatial ring his top priority. He drops his massive bag with a heavy thud, finally back in a safe zone. Exhausted from the back-to-back raids, he collapses against his pack, ready to offload his junk. He's cleared every level 5 dungeon in sight, and now he just needs to hit level 10 to unlock the next set. Suddenly, a thought strikes him, and his eyes go wide with realization. He remembers the betting pools and starts to worry that the bookies might have skipped town with his winnings. But then he hears a familiar voice calling out to him through the crowd. Old Zhao is still there, and he's clearly impressed by the young mage's performance. Zhao's respect for Nbai has skyrocketed after watching him smash every speedrun record on the board. He hands over a payout card, looking smug about how much they managed to pull in. Nbai can't believe the total. Nearly 2 million credits just from one night of betting. Zhao explains that while Nbai was busy in the dungeons, he was cleaning house at the betting tables. But his expression turns serious as he leans in to give Nbai a warning. He warns him to watch out for an assassin named Jiang Lei, who lost a fortune on those bets. Jiang Lei sits nearby, looking dangerous and brooding over his empty pockets. Nbai shrugs off the threat, telling Zhao to keep the monster drops as a bonus for his help. Zhao is stunned by the generosity, realizing that the items Nbai just gave him are worth a fortune. Later that night, the city lights twinkle outside Nbai's apartment window. He lays out his new gear, including a set of powerful rings, an amulet, and a new skill book. He groans at the cost, realizing that being a high-level mage is a total money pit. But he knows that credits are useless if they aren't converted into raw power. He begins to study the new skill book, absorbing its knowledge into his system. The new skill is a telekinetic shield, the perfect defense to shore up his weak points. He uses his telekinesis to bind the heavy shield he looted from the Giant King earlier. With his defense secured, he feels much better about his planned trip outside the city tomorrow. The sun rises over the city's massive perimeter wall, marking the start of a new day. The iron gates of the city stand tall, separating civilization from the wasteland beyond. The city guards are skeptical when they see a level 8 mage trying to head out alone. Nbai ignores their doubts, calmly approaching the checkpoint. He hands over the required exit fee without a word, ready to get moving. The guard takes the money, but warns him to call for help if things get ugly out there. He also reminds Nbai to be back before sunset, as the monsters go berserk at night. The area beyond the city is an active war zone, and the only way back is through teleportation arrays. In the ruins, a mutated rat scurries across a fallen tree, its eyes glowing with a strange energy. Nbai steps into the wasteland, noting how much the local wildlife has mutated since the cataclysm. He looks up at the twisted, bioluminescent trees, grateful that the professional system exists to help humans navigate this nightmare. Deep in the forest, a pack of goblins bickers over their lack of food and the danger of their king's wrath. The goblins aren't worried about humans, viewing any novice who wanders out here as nothing more than an easy meal. From his hiding spot, Nbai uses his basic identify skill to scan the pack, though its limited range only gives him the basics. Nbai, standing on a rocky outcrop, charges his staff with golden light, ready to begin his grind in the Wasteland. A massive explosion rocks the clearing, as Nbai finally unleashes his upgraded fire magic. A lone goblin is sent flying back by the force of the blast, its eyes wide with terror as it spots the human mage. Nbai stares down the monster with a cold, unwavering gaze, his presence looming over the smoking battlefield. The terrified goblin flees into the woods, and Nbai watches it go, intending for it to lead him straight back to its camp. A lookout goblin in a high tower spots the approaching mage and sounds the alarm, trembling as he shouts for help. Below the tower, another goblin screams for reinforcements, desperate to kill the human intruder before he reaches their base. Nbai walks calmly through the forest, a dark, swirling aura of mana radiating from him as he prepares for the next wave. From the shadows, a large, menacing goblin with glowing red eyes glares at the mage, preparing a counterattack. The massive goblin bellows into a crude war horn, calling the rest of the pack to swarm their lone opponent. Another explosion blooms like a fiery flower amidst the goblin settlement, shattering their meager defenses. A frenzied horde of goblins, armed with rusted blades and heavy clubs, rushes toward Nbai with murderous intent. Goblin archers and warriors launch a coordinated attack, raining projectiles down on the lone mage. The attacks hit a shimmering golden barrier that erupts around Nbai, failing to make even a scratch. Nbai stands calm and untouched within his telekinetic shield, nodding with satisfaction that his defenses are impenetrable. A massive goblin warrior leaps from a height, bringing its heavy stone axe down toward the mage's head in a desperate strike. The axe strikes the golden shield with a dull thud, dealing a pathetic single point of damage that barely registers on the meter. The goblin stares in disbelief at its ineffective weapon, unable to comprehend why the human hasn't been crushed. Nbai offers a mock apology with a wave of his hand, his expression one of bored amusement as he ends the fight. He triggers another powerful blast that ripples through the surrounding goblins, turning their ambush into a one-sided slaughter. One goblin's body begins to glow and crack as a volatile energy fills it from within, turning it into a living bomb. The chain corpse explosion triggers a series of emerald green blasts that consume the remaining monsters in a violent reaction. Watching the carnage from a distance is Nai, a hooded assassin with glowing purple eyes and a muscular build, his hands gripped tightly on his daggers. Nai and his companion are stunned by the sheer scale of the destruction, wondering what powerful mage lord is carpet-bombing this low-level zone. Nbai stands alone in a clearing, staff in hand, as the moon hangs over a desolate camp. A scout with red eyes and a long nose watches him from the shadows, clenching a wooden spear. The creature shouts for its pack to kill the human, hopping for a big reward from their king. A swarm of goblins charges out of the trees, weapons raised to surround the lone mage. Nbai just sighs, nodding that they actually have some teamwork. Too bad raw power doesn't care. He doesn't even need to chant. Instant fireballs erupt around him, blowing the front line to pieces. The goblins try to approach Nbai from all directions, as they are blown away when the defensive shield is activated. He swings his staff in a wide arc, letting off more explosions to clear the remaining stragglers. In seconds, the entire camp is reduced to smoldering ruins and silence. A notification pops up confirming 34 kills and a nice chunk of experience points. He spots something shiny in the dirt, next to some old scrolls and rusty daggers. It's a high-grade crystal, the kind only the absolute elite in the city can afford to mess with. He hoovers up the loot, thinking about how much faster combat classes rake in the cash. As he walks away, he wonders about the great king that goblin mentioned. There must be a bigger camp nearby. Deep in the woods, a bright flash signals another explosive encounter. Another elite monster hits the dirt as Nbai keeps moving, barely breaking a sweat. He's feeling pretty good about the haul, unaware that eyes are watching him from the trees. A guy named Nai is fuming nearby. Apparently, this kid cost him his squad leader position and a ton of money. His partner thinks a level 9 kid is easy pickings, but Nai warns him that he's from the Bai family. And Bai stretches, finally hitting level 10 and feeling the surge in his stats. His status window reflects the growth, showing off his new spell apprentice class and stats. The assassins decide to keep tailing him, waiting for a better spot further from the city guards. Night falls, and Nbai finds a quiet cave to hole up in for the evening. He builds a small fire and pulls up his system to use those 2 skill affix draws. The interface glows as 2 cards start spinning in front of him. He pulls a gold card and a red one, a tier he's never even seen before. The first draw is a gold legendary affix that grants him the explosion skill, but the second one is a red mythic affix called death-sparing substitute. He stares at the red glow, wondering how a tier higher than legendary even exists. He's never heard of a mythic tier before, making him wonder just how lucky he really is. It's not a direct attack skill, so he starts thinking about how to get the most out of it. He decides to slot it as a passive, figuring it might just save his life one day. The description is insane. It triggers on death, teleports him away, and makes him invincible for a minute. He grins, realizing that by level 100, he'll basically have 90 extra lives. Suddenly, something whistles through the air toward the cave entrance. He snaps a barrier into place, just in time to block a lethal projectile. Shadows creep into the cave as a voice taunts him for being out here without any servants. He recognizes the visitor immediately, and it's not someone he wanted to see. Nye steps into the firelight, daggers out, demanding all the money from yesterday if he wants to live. Nbai tries to stay calm, reminding him that the city defense force is probably nearby. Nye just laughs, saying he's already scouted the area and the guards won't make it in time. The rest of the squad closes in, telling their boss to stop talking and just finish the job. Nbai doesn't seem worried at all, telling the 3 of them that 5 minutes is more than enough time to finish this. Nye is insulted, calling him a fool and claiming a lone mage is just a lamb for the slaughter. He lunges forward, but Nbai is already preparing a nasty surprise. A massive wave of fire erupts, completely swallowing the assassin in an instant. Something snaps. A rare amulet breaks under the pressure of the blast. Nye manages to survive, but he's panting hard, pissed that he had to use a super expensive life-saving item. He tries to counterattack with shadow magic, but his hand is shaking. Nbai stands over him, casually mentioning that the only flaw in Nye's plan was underestimating the gap in their strength. The assassin looks up in terror, finally realizing who he's actually dealing with. Nbai just plays dumb, claiming he doesn't even know any high-tier skills. He finishes him off with another burst of flames, leaving nothing but a scream. The dust settles on the cracked earth, and for a moment it looks like it's over. He thinks to himself that using Chain Corpse Explosion was the perfect way to erase any trace of the fight. He turns to leave, but he doesn't notice the dark energy swirling near his feet. Suddenly, a purple blade of light streaks through the air from the shadows. It catches him right in the back, a perfect assassination strike that would kill any normal mage. Nye is suddenly right there, laughing as his dagger pierces through Nbai's chest. Turns out the guy he killed was just a shadow clone, and the real Nye was waiting for this exact moment. He gloats about his level 20 skills, mocking the kid for not having enough survival tricks. He moves in to loot the body, already dreaming about all the rare gear he's about to inherit. But instead of a body, a wooden log appears in a puff of smoke. Nbai appears behind him, perfectly fine, and gives him a backhanded compliment on his skill as an assassin. Before Nye can even process what happened, he's face to face with a massive fireball. Nbai isn't taking any more chances. He carpet bombs the entire area just in case there are more clones lurking. The mountain pass literally shakes from the series of massive explosions. When the smoke clears, everything, including Nye's spatial ring, has been incinerated. Nbai uses telekinesis to sift through the remains, thinking about how dangerous other pros can be. He realizes that death-sparing substitute is his only real safety net, and he needs to level up fast. He's about to walk away when he notices a purple glow coming from a crater in the rocks. He reaches out and uses his identity skill on the weird anomaly. A screen pops up revealing he's stumbled onto the Demon King's burial ground, a rare secret realm. He's shocked that the battle actually blew open the entrance to a hidden dungeon. It's a high-level area, but there's a catch. It needs 4 people to even enter. He considers his options, but decides that random classmates are too unreliable to trust with this. Instead, he pulls up his mail and sends a quick message to old Zhao, telling him to get over here immediately. Old Zhao stands outside a cave, calling out for his buddy. Nbai walks out from the rocky trail, letting the warrior know he's finally arrived. Old Zhao apologizes for the delay, explaining that he brought along his sister and her classmate so they could see what a secret realm is like. The 2 students are introduced, the unnamed blonde mage and the unnamed shield warrior. Both are low-level and just getting started. Nbai gives them a casual greeting, keeping things simple. The group reaches the entrance of the dungeon, glowing with a faint purple light. Since it's a multiplayer realm, Nbai tells them to just follow his lead and collect their share of the loot without needing to fight. The unnamed blonde mage is skeptical about being carried, but old Zhao whispers that they're really just there to fill up the party slots. Old Zhao agrees, mentioning he's already level capped and doesn't even need the experience points. They step through the portal and are immediately teleported inside. The realm is a desolate wasteland under a massive, eerie moon. The unnamed shield warrior is already terrified, making Anbai wonder why she even picked a high defense class. A glowing skeletal hand suddenly claws its way out of the ground. An elite skeleton warrior fully emerges, its bones glowing with a supernatural blue light. The system identifies the monster as a level 15 elite unit with a massive health pool. The girls watch from the sidelines, worried that a level 10 mage can't take down an elite swordsman alone. Anbai is actually excited, seeing the difficulty as a good sign for the rewards. He decides to hold back a bit so he doesn't reveal the secret power of his skill affixes to the newcomers. He points his staff and fires off a single fireball. The spell hits with explosive force, shattering the elite skeleton instantly. The skeletal head rolls to a stop at the party's feet. The group is frozen in shock, unable to believe a standard fireball did that much damage. Anbai thinks to himself that since the bones are still mostly intact, they shouldn't be able to guess his true power. More skeletons rise from the dirt, but Anbai keeps picking them off with ease. The unnamed blonde mage wonders why he's so overpowered. Old Zhao reminds her that Anbai only awakened yesterday. The girl is left feeling completely inadequate compared to his natural talent. She feels like the gap between them is wider than the gap between a human and a dog. The unnamed shield warrior tells her to quit complaining and just focus. Old Zhao urges them to keep up so they don't slow Anbai down. Another skeleton is blown apart as the group continues through the dungeon. Anbai sees a level up notification as he reaches level 11, gaining a huge boost to his stats. He stops for a moment and tells the others to collect the dropped materials while he takes a break. Old Zhao happily carries the loot, telling Anbai to leave the grunt work to them. Anbai opens his system menu to draw a new skill affix. He pulls a gold legendary affix, high probability. The card boosts the trigger chance of low probability effects and increases drop rates. He attaches it to his fireball. Anbai is pleased with the pull, thinking he nailed it. Old Zhao checks in, asking if they should divide the loot they've collected so far. Anbai tells him to wait, and that they should clear the entire dungeon first. The path opens up into a massive, foggy graveyard filled with crumbling tombstones. The eerie atmosphere is quiet as they look over the burial grounds. The party moves into the heart of the graveyard to face whatever is waiting at the end. Anbai looks down at another coffin, nodding that the last dungeon had one just like it. The graveyard is silent and foggy, with the coffin sitting ominously in the center. Suddenly, the wooden lid shatters into pieces as something bursts out from within. The unnamed shield warrior yelps in surprise, flinching back behind her shield as the debris flies. From the wreckage, a mass of glowing cyan soul fire begins to swirl. The system identifies the threat: the cursed Demon King, a level 15 purple boss with a massive health pool. The party looks up as the spectral energy forms a massive, dark shape in the fog. A giant, tattered cloak drapes over a floating skeletal skull with one glowing red eye. Anbai stays composed, yelling for the others to watch out while he prepares to act. He raises his staff, intending to blast away the thick fog to get a better look at their enemy. A strange glow manifests as his spell begins to take effect. Anbai's eyes widen in genuine shock as he realizes what the boss is actually doing. Instead of one boss, multiple spectral skulls draped in black robes begin to appear in the air. The group looks on as 10 identical versions of the cursed Demon King surround them. Anbai quickly casts his physical shield, a golden barrier rising to protect him. But the boss's skill is no ordinary attack. A heavy black chain passes right through the barrier. The chain slams into Anbai's chest, hooking directly into his soul. The unnamed blonde mage and the unnamed shield warrior are also caught, the spectral chains wrapping around them. Even old Zhao isn't spared, the chain locking onto him as he grunts in pain. Zhao shouts for everyone to check their status screens immediately, knowing something is very wrong. Anbai reads his notification. He's bound by the life curse chain. Any damage dealt to a clone will be reflected back onto the party. The two girls cling to each other, trembling with fear as they realize they can't even fight back. Old Zhao's face turns pale as he explains he's seen this forbidden skill once before on a high-level lick. He remembers a past mission where his party was targeted by the same lethal chain. They had assumed they could just heal through the reflected damage as long as their priest stayed active. They were wrong. Even after they managed to kill the source of the spell, the damage was too much. He watches the memory of his companion's life force fading away, unable to do anything to save him. The unnamed shield warrior is completely overwhelmed, tears in her eyes as she asks how this could happen. And Bai stays analytical, telling them not to panic since they only take damage if they hit a clone. Out of the 10 bosses, 9 are fakes. Old Zhao agrees but points out the obvious problem. They have no way of knowing which one is the real Demon King. And Bai thinks to himself that he's personally safe, thanks to his death-sparing substitute affix. But he brought these people in here, and he feels responsible for making sure they get out safely. Above them, the clones of the Demon King loom, their empty sockets staring down at the group. The spectral boss lets out a silent, chilling roar as the energy around it intensifies. The unnamed blonde mage points toward the ground, screaming that the boss is casting another skill. The earth begins to rumble and crack open beneath their feet. Dozens of blue-boned skeleton warriors crawl out of the graves, weapons drawn. A massive wave of undead summons surrounds the party, cutting off any easy escape. Terrified, the unnamed blonde mage begs her brother to retreat before they get completely overrun. Old Zhao looks conflicted, unsure if he can even swing his sword without triggering the curse. And Bai remains eerily calm, watching the skeletons close in on them. He tells the girls to just wait and see, promising that as long as they stay close to him, these summons won't be a threat. And Bai grips his staff tightly, calculating the exact amount of firepower needed to clear the area. He knows he must be precise to avoid hitting the cursed Demon King clones and triggering the chain's backlash. A focused blast of energy slams into a skeleton warrior, shattering its ribs instantly. And Bai dashes through the battlefield, a smirk on his face as he realizes the summoned mobs are providing a massive amount of experience. One of the spectral boss clones looms large behind him, its empty eyes glowing with a malevolent light. Undeterred, and Bai laughs and calls for more, welcoming the endless waves of enemies. Multiple fireballs rain down, incinerating groups of skeletons in a series of violent explosions. His hand trembles slightly as he channels an immense amount of mana into his next spell. A massive golden orb of concentrated energy forms at the tip of his staff, illuminating the dark graveyard. And Bai's eyes widen in brief concern as he realizes he might have overamplified the power of his own spell. The rest of the party watches in stunned silence, overwhelmed by the sheer intensity of the mana gathering before them. The golden sphere detonates, sending a colossal shockwave of energy through the center of the undead army. And Bai watches the fading light, relieved that his gamble paid off and he didn't accidentally hit the boss. Old Zhao bows in gratitude while the girls look on in a mixture of exhaustion and awe at his power. With the biggest threats cleared, and Bai stands ready to finish the job, his staff glowing with a calm blue light. He continues to methodically pick apart the remaining skeletons, breaking their ancient bones with ease. Blast after blast rings out as the graveyard is slowly cleared of the blue-boned invaders. 2 hours later, the battlefield is quiet, and the party takes a much-needed break on the cold ground. The unnamed blonde mage stretches her arms, still in disbelief that Bai turned a deadly boss fight into an experience farm. Old Zhao looks over at the young mage, admitting that most people would have fled such a terrifying situation long ago. He marvels at how quickly Bai was able to wipe out an entire army of skeleton warriors single-handedly. The unnamed shield warrior blinks back tears of relief, her eyes showing the weight of the stress she's been under. She suddenly notices a change in the air, pointing out that the skeletons have finally stopped rising from their graves. Looking around, the graveyard is littered with shattered bones, the fog finally starting to lift. Only one spectral figure remains floating in the sky, the last remnant of the cursed Demon King's power. And Bai stands tall, taunting the lone spirit and asking if it has finally run out of tricks. Old Zhao clenches his fist in realization, explaining that the boss must have consumed all its mana to summon those waves. And Bai nods, seeing the logic in Zhao's words as he observes the weakened boss. The girls cheer as the spectral chains finally shatter, freeing them from the deadly curse. Without hesitation, Bai charges forward, gathering mana for one final, decisive strike. The real cursed Demon King watches helplessly as the young mage closes the distance, its spectral form flickering. A blinding pillar of light erupts from the ground, consuming the boss in a final, purifying explosion. A golden system window appears, announcing the successful defeat of the level 15 cursed Demon King. Pillars of light descend upon the group as they all level up, with Bai reaching level 12 and gaining a new affix draw.